Good morning, my dear audience. Today I am glad to introduce a great author, Dracula's writer, Bram Stoker. Stay with us. We will come back in a few seconds. Here we are again. Thank you to listen to us. Let's get started with this interesting interview. How are you, Mr. Stoker?
I am perfect, very glad to be here with you and very pleased to be here. Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for accepting our invitation. In order to know you better, tell me about your childhood.
Well, I was born on November 8, 1847, but I moved to London when I used to live in Ireland. I was the president of the Philosophical Society of Dublin. Also, the family of my friend Oscar Wilde influenced me a lot, but once I was talking to a friend that told me a story about Blood Thebes tree, nicknamed Dracula, that means devil in Roman. He was a giant that used to suck the blood of his enemies.
Wow, that's really interesting, but I have some doubts that I know other fans would like me to ask you. What inspired you to write Dracula's novel?
Well, actually, I have been always concerned about terrible stories, but my mom used to tell me a lot of superstition stories, which I love it. I think these kinds of histories make you to stay awake, to be intrigued. That is what I want to transmit to people who read my book. As you can notice, this is a story between good and evil. In this case, between Dracula and Van Helsing. I think the main reason I wrote this book was because I tried to get modern scientific facts with superstitions. But first of all, I heard some stories in my town which talked about vampires. So after it, I started an investigation in order to know more and more about the origins of vampires, especially Dracula.
Amazing. So, what do you feel about knowing Dublin's people established a day to commemorate Dracula's novel?
I feel extremely glad to know that my books is not only white papers with some ink, but especially stories that will be read for a long time. I know it will be a classic. I appreciate this action to all the people who share Dracula's novels and interesting reading.
Great. Have you ever imagined how transcendental your novel would be?
Well, actually, I believe that any author knows the impact of their words. I start writing just to share people an interesting story. I didn't know that it will create this boom of vampires' beliefs.
Well, in your book, you travel a lot. These trips that you include have any meaning or any relation with your real life?
Actually, it has. I have been traveling around the world to know more about vampires' terror stories. Those trips gave me more details that I include in my novel. If I have never traveled, I would have never wrote it. So, yeah, I travel as a Dracula and Dr. Van Helsing did.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed this interview. Coming up next, we have other main characters of this novel, so stay tuned.
As our main character is Dracula, we brought him right into our program to know a little bit more about him. So, let's begin.
Your real name is Blight Thebes, right? But they call you Dracula, so how do you prefer me to call you?
Dracula is fine.
Dracula, what did you feel by killing people in such a sadistic way?
Oh, I didn't feel anything. I actually felt so much pleasure because of the way they answered me or acted. They deserved pain.
Could you tell us about the punishment you mostly enjoy?
Sure. Once I remember, there were a few Turkish messengers who refused to remove their turbans in my presence. I got very angry, and when the Turkish returned to Istanbul, I nailed the turbans right to their skulls.
Ugh, how creepy. Hey Dracula, I heard about something that captured my attention. Could you tell me something about that time when Florentine the merchant came to your castle to report a crime?
Florentine was guilty because he had no reason to accuse something like that. But decided to be understanding. So the only thing I did was to tell him to return the next day so he could find all thieves and members of their families impaled in the courtyard of the castle. In front of all those people, I had the stolen bag right in my hand.
And why did you do such a terrible thing?
Easy, because I did not want it to be repeated.
Thank you very much, Dracula.
Thank you for inviting me to your program. It was a pleasure to answer your questions. But now that you know more about my crimes, you should all die. Good luck and thank you again.